Okay, so welcome, everybody. Let's call to order today's November 22nd, 2022 meeting, the Ways and Means Committee meeting. Please note that this meeting is being live streamed via video, and that the public, if they're not already watching, they can always tune into www.orangecountygov.com, click on the tab for the legislature, and locate today's meeting on the calendar. Please remember also to silence your cell phones, tablets, or other electronic devices. Please note that the microphones in here are very sensitive, and we don't want them to pick up extraneous conversations. So at this time, would everyone please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All righty. Carrie Ann, roll call, please.
Nagustakis.
Present.
Russia.
Here.
O'Donnell.
Here.
Stein.
Here.
Hotel. Here. Paduk.
Here.
Cheney.
Here.
Benton.
Here.
All present.
Thank you. Okay, Carrie. First up, we have our Carrie Gallagher and Michael Schreiber, Commissioner and Deputy Commissioner of Finance. A is request supplemental appropriation to transfer any unspent proceeds from borrowing to debt services for completed projects in preparation to close the projects.
So moved.
Brescia,
Second.
Tortel, Carrie.
So the next few items on the agenda, I know we're gonna go.
Bookkeeping.
Yeah, that we do this every year. This is just to clean up and for accounting purposes to close the projects. So this first one is we're gonna move any unspent borrowed money to debt service for completed projects.
And that totals $20,070.31, correct?
Yes.
The last number there. All right. Questions from committee members? Let also the record show that the Chairwoman Benelli is here today. Oh,
Thank you, sir.
welcome. And also Legislator Sassy in the back. Any questions?
Yeah.
Mike Gay.
Yeah, just quickly, most of them are just pennies, but
The
one of them is $20,000.
Yes, exactly. So that was just an accounting error where it was charged to the wrong capital project. So by doing this, we're moving it to the correct capital
Okay,
project.
thank you.
You're welcome.
So now?
Thank you.
Okay. Hearing no other questions, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. B, request supplemental appropriation to reduce previously authorized bond resolutions for various completed capital projects. The resolution would facilitate the closing of the completed projects and reduce the authorized but unissued debt that exceeded the actual borrowing. Motion in a second, please.
So moved.
Patel, Paduk, Karen.
So we do this to close the projects. This is reducing the amount of any unspent budget. Therefore, we have no open and unauthorized.
Okay. And again, this total amount is, for the record, $556,243. Questions from committee members? Other legislators present? Hearing none, all in favor as presented? Aye. Opposed? Carried. C, request supplemental appropriation to return any unspent funding back to its originating source for completed projects in preparation to close the projects. Motion in a second.
So moved.
Patel,
Second.
Cheney. Carried.
In this case, we did not spend the entire requested amount, and therefore we're putting it back to where it originally came from. The
Okay.
original source.
And that amount total is $14,572.26.
Yes.
All right. Questions from committee members? Other legislators? Hearing none, all in favor as presented? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Thank you. All right. D is request that capital project budgets be adjusted due to unborrowed amounts that have passed their 10-year life and are now deemed repealed. The county's authorized and unissued bonds will also be decreased.
So.
Brescia,
Second.
Cheney, Carrie.
So as you stated, it's hit its 10-year life, therefore it's not spendable or borrowable, if that's a word.
Mhm.
And so that's it.
All right, and the total is $907,877.
970, excuse me, 907,877.
877. Wow, that seems like it's a lot.
It is.
All right, questions from committee members? Mr. O'Donnell?
Do we reissue them? Why do we wait 10 years?
You could reissue, yeah, so if it's not used, yes, yeah, in some cases, in some, yeah.
Thank you.
Ms. Hotel?
That was my question.
Okay. All right, any other questions? Hearing none, all in favor as presented? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Sales tax update,
Sure.
our little charts.
Yep, as we always do, I provided the charts, in advance. So for the month of November, we had two payments that came in at 35% or 35.6% over budget, or 5.8 million. And currently, we are 49.4% over, 49.4 million over budget, excuse me. And in December, we will receive 4 payments.
So we got 4 more coming up.
Yes, and I think I misspoke last month and said 3, so I apologize for that. We had 4 in December.
Okay. So the one we received on January 2nd is actually considered,
It's like the accrual
From-
goes back.
right,
yes,
the arrears
yeah.
from
Mhm,
December.
mhm.
right, okay.
So that was, yeah,
All right, so more good news,
exactly.
more good news. Questions from legislators, committee members? Ms. Hotel?
We have the part, and I don't see it where it's gonna say how much additional is going to municipalities.
Oh, that'll be calculated at the end when we pay them.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
It's around 62% or
Yeah,
66%,
so
something like
quarterly,
that. So
I'm sorry.
everybody's going to get a little bit more of that 5 million.
Yeah, no, I thought it was a quarterly thing, sorry.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
That's it.
Any other questions from committee members or other legislators present? If not, you get off easy. That was
I
fast.
know, and first, I don't know who I did that. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Yes, have a very happy Thanksgiving. That budget.
Tenant throws us off when we put us at the front of the schedule. We're not used to that.
Well, Paul's lucky. Don McCary used to go last every single day.
Okay,
Welcome.
okay, so our budget, general fund budget status, we're in pretty good shape. Basically, some of the major points here are, our other revenues are up, well over $330 million over the same time last year, and that is primarily due to the sales tax increase that we have, as Carrie just spoke about. Our state and federal revenues are up also. This could possibly be as a timing issue, but the major categories that are the departments that are up in those 2 categories are DSS and the health department, which is the education of handicapped children and early intervention. Also on the expense side, as the sales tax goes up, again, what the chairman just said, that we are going to pay out additional money to the municipalities, so that has an increase there. Personal services and benefits are roughly up about the same percentage of the total expenditures as last year. The vacancies for 2021 in November were about 370. This year, it's about 351. 17 of them are part-time. And we, I have to say, in October, we approved 47 hiring requests. So we are trying to get them in here.
Is that in that number? At 351?
That is the total funded vacant positions that we have currently.
After the 41 has been filled.
Well, no, we just approved them to be hired. It's just that they've
Right.
been hired.
Got to find a person for the seat, that's all.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Okay. Questions from legislators? Nothing? Nothing more? All right, thanks, Deb.
Okay, happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
All right, Paul Wiley, we're gonna move him to the end for today. Come on up. All right, deed sale parcels. Motion in the second for discussion, please.
Second.
Okay, Paul. Page one.
Doing well. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for allowing me to present to you. We have 5 bids on 4 properties. The first one, 1A, is actually one that we had discussed last month. The question was whether or not the person needed, well, wasn't much of a question. They needed to meet up with the total of the back taxes, penalties, and interest that were owed because they were the prior property owner. And so we asked him to go back and resubmit a bid that covered the taxes, which he did. And so now we have a bid from him of $400 and recommending that we accept that. This is the property, if you recall, that it appears that his mortgage company did not include this small parcel at the back of his lot in the escrow, and they should have. And so it was not necessarily his fault that he lost his property. And so I recommend that we accept his bid for his property back. He's going to make good on all the back taxes.
Okay, so somebody else actually bid more, hoping to steal it from him?
Yes, hoping to acquire the property, perhaps steal it from him, I'm not sure.
Make him pay more or?
Something. And yes, there does seem to be something going on. It's another adjoining property owner who is trying to get the lot. I recommend that we give it to the bidder of 1A because it was his property and he lost it.
Okay.
No fault.
Yeah, I didn't really mean steal it.
No,
from him, but, you know,
I understand.
you knew what I meant.
And although the second person is bidding more, I think it's more important to get this property back to the right
Original owner. That's what we normally try and do, is to keep people whole, so, okay?
And that takes care of 1B, which is the other.
Mm-hmm, okay,
Up to number 2. This is somebody bidding, last month they bid $500, now they're bidding $1,000 for a property where we have a minimum bid of $35,000. The fair market value for this property is $53,800. It just went to auction this past year. I have a feeling we'll get a much better bid eventually, and I recommend we do not accept the $1,000 bid.
it says vacant with improvements. What's on it? Shed or
It
something?
appears to be something like a shed, or maybe there had been a building there, but there doesn't seem to be much there at this point.
Okay,
Yes, I recommend no to that one, although I should point out that if they keep doubling their bid in 6 months, they will more than cover the back taxes, but until we get to that point, I'm going to say no. The next one is property in the town of Newburgh. This is a landlocked small lot that it's an adjoining property owner that is bidding $1,600 on back taxes of $902.50. I recommend that we accept this bid. Good to give a property like this to an adjoining property owner and get it back on the tax rolls.
okay,
And then the last one is a property also in Newburgh. This is one that we discussed last month. The same bid again. This is a parcel that is split by a paper street. And I did submit a report to everyone shortly after the Ways and Means last month. And basically, our finding is that, yes, it's paper street. It was created or proposed back in the 1920s or 30s. As it has not been constructed and it's been more than 30 years, the road could be considered abandoned. A property owner of this parcel could request that the land area in between be added to their lot if they so chose. But even after all is said and done, the total area of the lot is still only 0.58 of an acre. If they were to include that area in between, which is still smaller than required by zoning, which is 40,000 square feet. Plus, there's no municipal water or sewer on this lot, so you couldn't guarantee that they'd be able to get a well and septic in that small of an area, depending upon the wells and septics are on the adjoining properties. So I would recommend allowing this person to buy the lot for the $7,000 bid, because there's risk involved in time, whether or not they could possibly build this or not. Although we could try to hold out and get more, there's no guarantee we would. And the market going the way it is, I would say, let it go to this person and let them take the risk and reward, if any.
okay.
And that's that.
Anybody have any questions on any of these properties? Mr.
Just
Padu?
on that last one, isn't it Baker Street a natural subdivision? Or if it's not identified as a street, it isn't? I mean,
As far as it being subdivided into two separate
yeah,
parcels.
if somebody built a road through a parcel, it's a natural subdivision, it's two separate parcels.
Right, that's how it would be. And so if the town were to choose to consider it that way, the assessor were to ask for them to be two separate parcels, we would consider that a natural subdivision. However, in this case, it's one tax lot for tax
Or it
purposes.
is one tax.
It is one tax parcel.
What's it in there? Okay. It's on the-
And they maybe created an alleyway that looks like just a vacant strip, but there's nothing there. It was never made into an
Correct.
actual street.
Correct.
No street improvements, let's say.
It's not a right of way, right? So
There does not appear to be a right of way either. And both this lot and the one behind it have frontage on other streets, so there'd be no need to try to force a right of way through this.
Mr. O'Donnell?
Get back to one A and one B, we're within our legal authority to take care of Russell Bridge,
I believe we are.
believe in it. No. it's two different things.
True. I would have to defer to law on that.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
We've done that before, I think.
Yeah, I'm sure we have.
many times.
I just want it on the record.
Of course. Thank you. All right, any other questions for any of these properties? If not, all in favor of approving the commissioner's recommendation for 1A, 3, and 4? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you. And have a good Thanksgiving. everybody.
You too. Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
All right, next up, Public Works. Where's Eric today?
Eric wasn't feeling so loud.
Oh, okay. Welcome, Travis. All right, so A is request supplemental appropriation to the 2022 Orange County DPW Airport Division budget for the purchase of fuel at the Orange County Airport due to strong anticipated sales. This is in the amount of $75,000. Motion in a second, please. Luke, Russia, Travis. Oh, was it Bill Sines? Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you for the correction. Travis.
Thank you. This would be to increase the airport's budget for fuel sales to allow for additional sale of fuel and ultimately additional revenue to come into the airport from that sale.
Any questions? Mike A.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I assume the fuel for airplanes follows similar pattern for crude oil prices. So if prices were higher and now they've come down a little bit, is that a true statement?
I can't say for sure. I can find out for you. I would assume the same thing.
Okay. Yeah, if you had any quick data, you could pass it along.
Sure.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, carried. Thank you. All right, B's, request supplemental appropriation to the capital project budget for site distance improvements. This project has been approved under the 2022 capital plan as project number 55. Upon approval, a new capital project will be created in the amount of $150,000 to come from bonding. Motion in a second, please.
So moved.
Hotel. Paduk. And Travis, when you give county routes, can you also give the local roadway name?
Absolutely. So this capital project would be for site distance improvements. It's a semi-annual capital project that we have. We've had one project that we believe we mentioned before that we're looking to do site distance improvements on, and we have our staff working on a RFP for that right now. That's for the intersection of County Route 75, which is Coldenham Road and Berea Road. And it would be to improve the site distance at that intersection, which is restricted right now.
Okay, thank you for that. I like it.
Good town.
Quick question.
That's in Montgomery.
I wouldn't-
Mike A.
Yeah, what direction? So if I'm heading this way and I make a right-hand turn to go to Walton, you're improving what section? My right hand?
If you,
Coldenham Road is the road that starts at 17K at the traffic light and goes to Walden.
if you were making a.
Right,
by
you're
the
doing the
firehouse.
intersection, you're doing the intersection, right?
Correct.
Of Berea and Coldenham.
Yeah, so if you were on, I believe it's Berea, and if you're making a right hand going towards 17K,
That's a left hand, go to 17.
the other side of the intersection, I apologize.
Okay,
It's the right,
well, I'm coming from 52 going that way.
okay.
So you're making a left to go to 17K? That's the area that's being improved?
I believe that's the direction we're looking at. Yeah, if you, there's one leg of that intersection that when you're looking right, it's restricted.
It's on that curve where you.
No, I know it
really-
And there's a wall there that would be needed to either move back further, a retaining wall erected, something
Okay,
like that.
because that's a tough area.
Yes.
A lot of, especially seniors, they have trouble with that, and there've been some accidents in the past there. So anything you can do would be great.
So we have a request for proposals out to do the detailed design. There's already a preliminary evaluation on it. It was completed. And we're hoping to have that as a project for next year.
I was gonna say, expect the time to get working on it next year at some
I'm
point.
hoping that will be later summer, fall next year. If we're, that's our goal right now.
Beautiful, thank you very much.
Okay, part two.
Another project that we have on there is County Route 41, and I apologize. I think that County Route has several names, and I don't remember which one is right in front of, it's right near the Town of Warwick Town Park. And there's a rock outcrop on the inside of a curve. Union Corners. Okay, sure.
Thank you, Barry. Rock outcropping on a curve.
Should be to eliminate that.
All right. Questions from committee members? Other legislators? Hearing none, all in favor as presented? Aye. Opposed? Carried, thank you. All right, C, request supplemental appropriation to the capital project budget for non-highway paving projects. This project has been approved under the 2022 capital plan as project number 49. Upon approval, the new capital project will be created in the amount of $100,000 to come from bonding. Motion in a second, please.
Someone,
Tortel,
Second.
Cheney. Travis.
This is another semi-annual project.
Yep.
We are intending on repaving our highway maintenance garages, which we've really been repairing with leftover asphalt and the potholes, et cetera, for many years. And this will be to repave the three maintenance garages that we have.
And that's one in New Windsor.
There's one in New Windsor, one in Warwick, one in Mount Hope.
Thank you. All right, and we're also, was mentioned, Eric, yesterday around the headquarters where the fleet wash is going to go, but not till after the fleet wash is completed.
There's that, and we're still finishing up, closing out the soil remediation project. It was at the DPW complex.
Mhm.
I don't anticipate any more, work that has to be done on the ground for that. Right now, we're just in a monitoring phase for that, but just to be safe, I think we have a couple of years left on closing out that project.
Okay. All right, questions from committee members? Other legislators? Hearing none, all in favor as presented? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Thank you. D, request supplemental appropriation for the capital project budget for intersection improvements. This project has been approved under the 2022 capital plan as project number 44. Upon approval, a new capital project will be created in the amount of $100,000 to come from bonding. Motion in a second, please. Hotel, I'll second this one. Travis?
Recently, this capital project has been utilized for our traffic signal evaluation and optimization program we have, where we've been identifying key corridors and improving the timing and other improvements of the signals as needed for some of our traffic signals that went up many years ago that the timing has not been revisited since the signal went up, either because we put it up or it was put up as part of a development So we've been utilizing it for that, and we hope to continue doing that. We also have the intersection of County Route 86, which is Fostertown Road, and North Fostertown Road, where we have a preliminary design to rework the geometry of that intersection and also erect traffic signals at the intersection. So this would be to finish off that project, detailed design, and go to construction.
Also, within just a few feet are the intersection of New Road and Wyant's Lane and Fawcetttown Road and Owens Road,
Yes.
the old dead end dirt road. Questions from committee members? Mr. Paduk?
Thank you. And just, I asked this yesterday, and just, we usually get the balance, if there's any balances left in these accounts.
This one, there's $350,000 in
Yes.
that account already. And the Fostertown intersection project, we're anticipating to be at least that amount.
And they did say that yesterday. All right, and this also includes Neelytown?
Neelytown is a project that we're working on. The New York State DOT has to approve the Middletown, New Jersey Railroad taking over and making an improved signal at that location. Otherwise, if that doesn't happen, we will have to re-erect that signal as it was.
Okay. Questions from committee members? Other legislators? Hearing none, all in favor as presented?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. Thank you. E, resolution making an appropriation to the capital project budget in the amount of $50,000 for asbestos and lead removal at various locations. This project has been approved under the 2022 capital plan as project number 25. Upon approval, a new capital project will be created in the amount of $50,000 from bonding. Motion and second, please. O'Donnell, Spencer, Travis.
Yep, this is my project, one of mine. Yes, this is an annual project. We come in for every year. This is to handle any kind of asbestos or lead material situations that come up during the year for some of our older buildings.
Okay. Did you tell us yesterday the balance that was in this account, like Mr. Paduk was asking?
I don't think we did, but we have, I did look at it the other day. There's 50,000 left in this from last year, from 21.
And actually, it's good to have a balance in these accounts because it means you didn't have to use it. So you didn't have any surprises. All right, just Mr. Paduk.
Do you have any plan for this year that needs to be updated?
Other than the 18 Sword, which is not part of this, no, not right now.
18-2, we're gonna do the whole thing?
Yes.
Good. Any other questions? Hearing none, all in favor as presented? Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Thank you.
All right, F, request supplemental appropriation to the capital project budget for ADA improvements. This project has been approved under the 2022 capital plan as project number 24. Upon approval, a new capital project will be created in the amount of $50,000 to come from bonding. Motion in the second, please.
So move. Second.
Paduk, Tortel. Gentlemen,
All right, thank you. This is another annual project that we keep for any physical ADA improvements. We are also undertaking a study right now that's from the surplus tax money for, all county buildings for ADA issues. So this would help fix the physical improvements needed, fund the physical improvements needed.
okay. I find it amazing we still have ADA improvements to do because I remember when I was first elected to the legislature, we had Kevin McGuire, who was a friend of mine in a wheelchair from Newburgh, who did that as his business. He came and studied all the county properties and gave us proposals. And I'm surprised there's still things out there to do.
There are still, in some of the older buildings, there are still some things left to do, mostly like bathrooms or things like that. A lot of the issues, the entry issues have been taken care of over the years.
Questions from committee members? Other legislators? Hearing none, all in favor as presented? Aye. Opposed? Carried, thank you. G, request supplemental appropriation to the capital project budget for various building improvements. This project has been approved under the 2022 capital plan as project number 26. Upon approval, a new capital project will be created in the amount of $350,000 to come from bonding. Motion in a second, please. Brescia. Benton. All set?
Oh, sorry.
No problem.
So this is another annual project we have for building improvements. There should be a list that was included in the packets for the big ticket item in this is the courthouse annex roof rehab next door. That roof's about 22, 23 years old now.
Courthouse annex. Is that,
Maybe 98, I'm not sure when that roof went on.
There's 21 years and it's the beginning of my.
Right. I know it was built, I guess, just prior to the jail and probably that.
Yeah,
Right.
there are a lot of issues over there.
Yeah.
Yes.
See,
I think I remember at the time walking through there where the floors weren't even done. On the same floor. Mike, a question?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So does that mean you've got, what, 225,000 sitting in the account? Because the whole project
Yes.
estimate is 575?
Yes, we have right now we have 316,000.
More than that.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Is this the same kind of roof? I'm sorry, Chairman.
Go ahead, Mr.
Same kind of
President.
roof System you're gonna use on the jail?
Yeah, same restoration system, yes. The
Lifetime.
lifetime warranty, yes. The roof over there is really good, actually. We did core samples of it and there's a plywood over top of the insulation, before the membranes on a roof, which we're told is not that common nowadays, so it's a good roof. It's a good candidate for restoration.
Good. All right, any other questions? Hearing none, all in favor as presented?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried? All right, H, wow, this is it. Request supplemental appropriation to the capital project budget in the amount of $1,100,000 for Guymard Bridge skyline protection. Bridge identification number 3364830. This project has been approved under the 2022 capital plan as project number 40 for $500,000. The balance of $600,000 will be from approved capital project number 52, rehabilitation of Graham Line Bridge, which DPW will not be utilizing. Upon approval, a new capital project will be created, and this funds to come from bonding. Motion in a second, please.
So moved.
Cheney. I'll second Benton. And just for reference, if you take your phone and you go New York State Bridge bin number, you put it in, the map will come up and show you right where this is. Because I tried it yesterday trying to find out if it would work. Gentlemen.
I didn't even know that, so that's great information. I have a program I use, but this would be for scour protection of Guymore Bridge, along with other bridge improvements to extend the life of this bridge. Guymore Bridge is in the town of Deer Park on Guymore Turnpike. It's over the Neversink River. It was built in 1975. Bridge is approximately 168 feet long. And it's a scour critical bridge. It currently has yellow flags for some section loss on some isolated areas on the steel girders and also overextended bearings on the structure.
Can you explain that?
Sure. Where the center pier is and the abutments, water's been able to get down through the joints in those areas. So the steel girders, there's been some corrosion. So part of this project is we're going to make steel repairs to those isolated areas where there's deterioration. We'll also be replacing the bridge joints so that they are not leaking down into that area. We'll be doing painting of those end sections of the beams. We'll be doing jacking up and replacing the bearings for the bridge. And then we will be performing scour protection measures, which most likely will be installing steel sheeting at the upstream side of the abutments and the center pier, and then very large riprap stone armoring those areas so that the footings for the center piers and the abutments are not getting undermined.
So those bearings, where if you look closely at a bridge underneath, you sometimes see like a girder that's scalloped with a big round bar. Is that the bearing?
On this one, these are rocker bearings, so it's a, almost imagine a triangle that comes up and the beam sits on that triangle and then the triangle can actually move back and forth with the expansion and contraction of the bridge.
Oh, okay.
But in this case, under its natural state, the bearing is all the way forced as far as it can go, so it's not allowing that contraction, expansion.
So that's why it can rock back and forth.
Yeah.
Okay. Questions from committee members? Liz Tortel.
Thank you. Just for public edification, can you explain what the Scour project is? And then also what's going on with the Graham Line Bridge?
Sure.
Thank you.
So Scour is, a lot of our bridges, ideally, the footings for the bridge are anchored directly into bedrock. Or the velocity within the stream bed is very low, so you don't get erosion, the potential for erosion under the footings. So that's, a source of significant bridge failure. If the footings get eroded, you're in bad shape. So this would be armoring in front of the footings so that erosive water velocities can't undermine the footings.
That means steel plates, so like driven?
Most likely, it's going to be steel plates driven down and then heavy stone in front and behind in those areas, and then continuing to line the footings, downstream with heavy stone.
It's usually almost looks like the old corrugated roof, but a lot more substantial.
Much more robust.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
I know a lot of people are gonna know what they're talking about. And then the Graham Line Bridge.
So Graham Line Bridge is actually a project that it's over railroad tracks. We have it fully designed, and throughout the design process, when we originally went in for the 2022 capital project, we anticipated that we were going to need additional funding to the tune of $600,000. As we finished the design of it and we finished working with the railroad, who will have to inspect and flag during the work over it, and also factored in escalating steel pricing, the construction cost increased quite a bit more. So instead of going in for the money that was in 2022 and then putting additional money into 2023 capital, we put it all into 2023. So it's in the 2023 capital plan. So we didn't need to go in for this money. So this will allow us to combine the bearings, the other repairs to the bridge along with the Scour project and bring this bridge up into a very good condition. It should extend its life for quite a long period of time.
I know because we've been plagued with problems with a bridge in my community, Hoboken Bridge. And a lot of the problems were the lack of the ability to get the steel and the steel parts that they needed for the pins and the brackets and so on and so forth that anchor the bridge into the bedrock at the end. Are you facing, and also the cost has risen exponentially. Are you facing any of that with these projects, or have you already been able to source out that? Because I know that I think it was close to a 40% increase in the actual cost compared to what they had initially anticipated prior to them having, prior to COVID, the issues with getting everything in.
So we have seen the steel prices go up. We've seen the steel lead time go up significantly. So the Graham Line Bridge, actually, we are anticipating on, that's in the 2023 capital plan. We're anticipating on coming in the beginning of 2023 for approval of that and bidding that project out and allowing the contractor basically a year to procure all of their steel for that project. Even though we're not planning on constructing it in 23, we are looking to construct that in 24 for detour routing reasons with another project, and it would be on the same detour essentially. So that's how we're going to address that. And we believe that we've factored in the steel escalation pricing in the amount we put in that 2023 capital.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. Travis, the steel sheeting that, again, is rippled, that goes down, galvanized, what's the lifetime expected out of that?
So those steel sheets that we put in they're a very heavy gauge, so it's not like the roofing.
Oh, no, I know
No,
that
I was
they're
just
very
saying
heavy,
that.
but they're galvanized, correct?
I believe the stuff that we've been putting in is not galvanized. And really, it's to protect under the water. And, once you don't have oxygen and water mixing together, I don't think that your deterioration is quite as fast.
Oh.
So it should have a very significant.
Okay.
Just to point out, is these bridges scoured now? They're protected now, or
No.
are they not?
No,
It was
and
never,
it never was. And these are things that are coming to light with the newer New York State DOT bridge inspections. So,
so they're making us do it now, even though it wasn't required originally.
or they're taking a harder look at it and some things are coming to light that hadn't previously. So I think when I first came to the county, we had just a handful of bridges that were on the scour critical list. And we've been getting more and more bridges that are being identified as such based on the inspection report.
And none of these scouring projects are replacing the existing that's been there for.
No, because they're like, this bridge, looking at the pictures, the footings for it is actually like large laid up rock with, concrete poured on top of that. So, and it's a kind of a sandy stream bed in that area, so.
And with some of the storms and flooding we've been having, obviously, like you said, the velocity caused, you start to see these things. Right. Any other questions? Hearing none, all in favor as presented? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Thank you. All right, and I, request supplemental appropriation to the capital project budget for building equipment replacement and installation. This project has been approved under the 2022 capital plan as number 27. Upon approval, the new capital project will be created in the amount of $150,000 to come from bonding. Motion and second, please.
So moved.
Tortel and O'Donnell. Travis?
All right, thank you. This is another annual project we have for building equipment replacement. There should be a list that was included for our project this year or next year at this point. And this is also an as-needed capital funding for when issues come up with boilers or HVAC and all that stuff.
Okay. Questions from committee members or other legislators present? All in favor as presented? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Thank you, gentlemen.
All right.
Have a great Thanksgiving.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you.
Turkey and football. Okay, we have a last second edition, which I graciously allowed to go on today's agenda.
Forget the parade.
You're gonna make it.
Huh?
Thank you,
Mr. Sassy
Chairman, for having us. I have
and Darcy, welcome.
Commissioner Miller with us as well. You know, they spelled your name wrong. Jeez, I got you. Good afternoon.
Let me read.
Colleagues.
This is a request for supplemental appropriation authorizing an additional $60,000 of local funds to the Orange County Fuel Fund administered by the Regional Economic Community Action Program, RECAP, bringing total available to $100,000. The funds will be distributed to eligible community members within Orange County. Motion in a second, please. O'Donnell, Hines.
Okay, pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
As we all know, we see fuel costs escalating. Again, somebody asked about jet fuel. It's going up again. It's going to be very expensive to travel this winter. As you fill up your car, or a couple weeks ago, I got oil and I was limited to 200 gallons. It was $6.12 a gallon for my own home. During COVID, I volunteered for Office of the Aging to deliver meals for Meals on Wheels. And I was stunned by the number of people who were maybe one meal away from starving or 1 degree away from freezing. So we're already in a cold period early now as we head into the season. And effective December 1st, New York State, it's Rick Olden still here, he left, but December 1st, they have suspended the 4% sales tax on all fuels, propane, electricity, which is great. Heat we have, you're all aware of that, and Commissioner Miller will talk about that.
This is HEAP or not?
No,
HEAP?
it isn't. I'll explain. So the HEAP applications open up November 1st. She's already received, the office already received through the roof applications for heating assistance. In 2005, I believe, Commissioner, this legislature created and directed a fund be created through DSS for $40,000 in 2005 that would be administered by RECAP as kind of a stopgap measure to help some folks in paying their propane, their oil, fuel, in an emergency. That 40,000 gets gobbled up. Last year it was 39.5, I believe, so it was almost used up. I think we should be proactive here. We're lucky to have our budget here today. We hear millions of dollars coming in. It's a small ask of $60,000 to add to that fund. It's called the Orange County Fuel Fund. You will find it on the social service website directing consumers to go there. But to increase it to $100,000 as we head into a very expensive heating season in anticipation that folks are going to need some help.
Ms. Totem.
Thank you. Could you explain a couple of things? One, how it's different from HEAP? Is the application process similar? Are the requirements similar or the same? And then also I'm seeing that it's coming from child support as opposed to, why aren't we taking it out of our general fund budget, which has, a large projected surplus. So I'm kind of a little curious about that aspect of it. So the difference between the two.
So you want to start with that, where it's coming from first?
Contingency was my initial.
So originally I did suggest contingency. However, when we spoke with Todd today and Caroline, they found some money within your budget. So it's basically just going to be a transfer at this point from one org to another org to cover that funding.
Thank you. I wasn't aware of that piece. It's been a big
No, that's
quite all right. And it makes sense. Because we're coming close to the end of the year and if it's within our budget, it's best to do that. It just go back upon balance anyways.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm
Do you want me to answer the other questions first? Okay.
Yeah, the other question.
So if you go to the website, you can learn all about HEAP and what the eligibility requirements are for HEAP and specifically for the fuel fund. There's a chart on there that shows what your income requirements, number of household members, what the amounts are. And this first column is for the fuel fund. Currently, this is between 15 and 18% above what the guidelines are for monthly income for HEAP. With the additional funds, depending on how the money is spent, throughout the year, the season, I should say, it would be able to be increased up to potentially 20% of the guidelines for monthly income requirements for HEAP. So it goes above and beyond those people who are right at the cusp.
Yeah.
In recap, they just started just Monday, because they also market for us HEAP and the fuel fund, as well as administer these funds. And the slogan is heat and eat. And that is the message, right, that we have out there today. Your people are struggling to do both. In this
So
way.
we will be able to reach a larger populace with that increased 20, you're saying how much percentage is it now, 18?
It's currently 15% above the HEAP guidelines.
And we could potentially raise it to 20% above the HEAP guidelines?
It depends on
Talking
how
about
the applications come in. So if HEAP receives an application that's just above the eligibility, but would meet the eligibility for the fuel fund, they'll send it over to the fuel fund for them to process.
So it's not
And vice versa.
Right.
They communicate regularly. They have a monthly meeting where we look at energy and how we're utilizing the funds and how we're processing applications. In 9 days, we received 1,200 applications for HEAP.
Unbelievable. And then
So
the individual grant amount or how much, is it different than what HEAP is or?
no, typically follows the HEAP. And again, if you look at HEAP gives a different benefit
Right.
based on the type of fuel.
Right, they have a different benefit and they also have the first and then the second and the emergency.
Right, they have an emergency and currently we have an emergency, which is a specific amount, again, depending on the type of heating.
Right.
And then there's the first benefit, which has been approved, and depending on the amount of funds that are available, the state may allow for second benefit.
Thank you.
Has everyone received the postcard from the county executive about HEAP? Everyone found, yeah. So that was a one-time deal, but we're also pushing behind the scenes to do that a couple more times over the season to let people know there is help. So this would be in addition to saying, you know, if you're in that gap area. I know recently there was a veteran in Cutterbackville. I have a 90-year-old widow out by, they're just, you know, their income, they just need a little help. So if we can, yeah, if we can get the county executive to send out a couple more of those mailers to let people know there's help available, extra help.
Yeah, and I appreciate the sensitivity of it, and certainly, Legislator Sassy having the conversation with me initially, the county executive supporting, and hopefully all of you too. Literally, we received 481 SNAP applications last week. Normally we receive 150 pre-COVID a week. So we've been averaging 250, but 481 in 1 week. And that tells you where our community is. It's, they're struggling.
Darcy, could you give your documents to Carrie Ann so that she can provide copies for everybody in their mailbox? Mike A.
Yeah.
Thank you.
If it were even possible to get them during this meeting. I don't know if we had we used to have a copy back there, right?
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you, Carrie Ann.
Thank you. So let's see, you said you had 1,200 people apply for HEAP so far?
And that doesn't include, I mean, literally our staff are answering, our HEAP staff are answering phones all day for emergency shut off.
Roughly how many HEAP did we have last year? Do you know off the top of your head?
Oh, how many applications?
Yes, last year.
I would be guessing.
Yeah, just guess.
Yeah, I couldn't even guess right now. I would
Were we
say,
able to accommodate everyone last year?
yes.
Are we gonna be able to accommodate all 1,200 this year? So far, you've got 1,200
You
applications.
did. This is, remember, that's within the HEAP guidelines. The fuel fund is above.
No, I understand that,
Yes,
but there's a certain amount of money allocated towards HEAP. When that
Correct.
runs out,
it's out.
it's out. Will the 1,200 exhaust that number?
Oh, no.
No.
No, it's 7 to 8 million total that we put out in HEAP benefits. In which
I guess the question I'm trying to ask, roughly how many people would exhaust the HEAP benefit? 1,000?
Oh, I can't say that for sure. I could tell you by history if I take a look at it, but I don't have it at the top of my head. I
And the
apologize.
total HEAP benefit, 7 or 8 million?
Yes.
Um,
And it really depends on how much the state is able to, it's federal, so how much they receive and how much they're able to give out across the state. I imagine it's going to be taxed across.
because I remember in our other committee, there are many years where we exhaust that HEAP number.
We'll max it out. I mean, we'll
This year, yeah.
process every application we get and we'll spend until the money's gone.
Right. So the
Yes.
money will be gone, and at some point, even people that are under the guidelines that we're gonna get right now
Might not get a second.
will not get any money. And so would those people then be able to flow to this other program in addition to the people above the guidelines? And so if this is only kind of 100,000, this will be exhausted very quickly, won't it?
You're absolutely right, but Michael, I think that's a start. And there's nothing that stops us from asking for more.
Well, that's where I'm going with
Right,
this. So,
right.
so I'm trying
Let's
to get,
try
I'm
it
trying to
and
get
see.
some definitive answers.
Yeah.
Because if this is easily exhaustible in 100,000, not only from the people that would apply above the guidelines, but even people under that would not be able to get HEAP. I'm gonna actually make a motion that we increase the request by an additional $50,000 to come out of contingency. To come out of contingency. I've got it. To come out of contingency, to increase the request now and make it $110,000. So
No,
hopefully
it'd be
this.
100,
It'd be
150.
That'd be 110.
No, the request that you're asking is 110,000
right.
with my additional 50,000 if someone seconds my motion.
I'll second that.
Okay.
My original thought would be, why don't we wait until we run out? And then we can figure out how much we really need. Ms. Spinelli.
Just to clarify, and I agree with you, Mr. Chairman, I think you all should be aware. First of all, I want to applaud Rob for bringing this to your attention. After last Tuesday's meeting with Darcy reporting where we were in the status and everything, both of them worked very, very quickly. And as I said, as Chairman Benton said, he was very gracious to be able to get on, but it took a lot of negotiating back and forth and a lot of legwork to be able to sit here this afternoon and make this. And while I understand legislator Anagnostakis wants to do this, this contract is with RECAP. They have the personnel to be able to process these applications. Darcy had to go back to RECAP to see if they could handle this workload. They have agreed to do that. This is a contract that we pay extra for. And it's a sizable amount of money to be able to disperse $40,000. So they've agreed, and correct me if I'm wrong, that they would accept the increase that is being proposed today at no additional charge. So I do firmly believe and encourage you to listen to what your chairman had said, is let's get into this, and if it starts to see that it's overwhelming, well, then we can go back to the drawing board. But time is of the essence. It is getting colder and people are in need. So I would urge you to move forward with what is presented today. And I'm sure that Rob and Darcy will keep an eye on this. And if we need to come back to increase that, obviously we'll have to go to RECAP first and see what that situation is as well. See if it's going to cost us anything.
From a lot of our there's contractual issues here that we would have to deal with because we'll change anything.
Yeah, thank you,
Okay.
Chairman.
Thank you, Matt.
So, so I may amend my motion or pull my motion back. I'll ask a couple of questions first. Because I fully understand everything that was said, and I know that we can come back to the committee, but I'm worried that there would be a delay coming back to the committee and people might be left in the cold, so to speak. So I will ask the commissioner, do you want the additional 50,000 approved today as per my motion, or do you not want that additional 50,000?
I'm going to say not, and I'll explain why, and that
Okay,
is,
so I will pull my motion.
You can explain it why.
the reason is simply the staffing, because personnel at RECAP and the administration have agreed to accept an additional 60,000 they distribute into the community because of their concern and commitment to our community. If we do more, we'll have to increase the staffing, and as importantly, we have never gone beyond the 40,000 that's been allotted. And we will sort out in the monthly meetings, where certainly ensure that we spend the 100,000 since it's available. But also to see if there's anything that's keeping people from being able to access the opportunity for those funds. So marketing, supporting outreach, doing what we need to do to make sure that people get access to it. I would be the first to say I report monthly on our HEAP stats in the Human Services Committee. And I could certainly speak to the work of the fuel fund. And I would come very quickly forward to you all if I thought people were being left in the cold, as you said. But I really, really appreciate the passion and commitment you all have.
Okay, so I'll pull my motion.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And again, thanks for having us here today. I mean, time is of the essence. That's why we pushed it as hard. So, we've been working on this since last week, fast and furious with the help of law. And there were a lot of hurdles that we had to cross, and Darcy had to make a lot of phone calls, working with the county attorney and his office. So there's a lot involved here. So I'd like to make it $1 million, but we can't. And I think the key thing, right on a contingency, okay.
She left.
But, I think that, and as Darcy Katie made some good points, and Darcy's point, we've never used that fund, but we've never had heating oil hovering at $6 a gallon. And propane is right behind another. So I think that we kind of cross that bridge when we get there. As we enter into the heating season, maybe in January, if we start to see that fund is depleted, that we revisit this and see what we can do at that time.
Mr. O'Donnell.
Yes, what I'm hearing is this is like a failure of government, okay? That we can't accommodate people that might need money for the heating. It's because RECAP doesn't have staffing. How do we get them staffing? We can't sit around, wait a month and another month as coming back in a committee to allocate money when they're already freezing and making a choice between heat and food. All right, so I'd ask the chair of the legislature to create a committee that will meet immediately Because this is a crisis. All right?
I just,
So I'm just asking
just so
you
you
to
know,
consider it.
just in addition to, both the county attorney and myself, along with legislative counsel, have had some discussions moving forward in how to address this possibly in a different fashion. But right now, we wanted to hop on this because it does provide, and it's going to be monitored very, very closely. And who knows, by next year at this time, we may be doing things a little differently. So that we don't run into this again.
I'm glad to hear that, but
So,
I'm not worried about.
How,
next
what
year.
shape or form, I don't know, but we're working on it.
All right,
And I thank you for bringing
appreciate
it up.
that. I appreciate that, but it's still a crisis, all right? So, I'm assuming that $40,000 was always used every year, just like HEAP has been used every year. HEAP runs out at a different stage each year, and this will be a lot earlier than normal, right? Without a doubt, a lot earlier than normal. So that $40,000 is gonna be exhausted a lot earlier than normal. And I certainly appreciate that you recognize that, and the county exec recognizes that.
County
But-
executive was very, very supportive of this, and he
This
was
is,
actually included
this
as
is
well.
peanuts. I'm just telling you, we can't wait another month to have the same discussion and realize that people don't have it. Rob started this when he got his oil bill, and so it was over $6, right? Everybody's starting to get their tanks filled. One other issue is the gasoline suppliers are not even filling up home tanks. There's no fuel. And I discussed last month about looking at giving money to the food banks. You mentioned 420 applications within the past week for SNAP benefits. So besides heat, there's no food for each people. Even if you go out Thanksgiving shopping now, there's items missing from the shelves. All right, so we're in crisis mode here. All right, we cannot wait next month for this meeting. So I urge everybody here to contact the county exec, offer as much help as you can to our chairwoman to get a solution to this, not 30 days, not 60 days, but starting right now. All right, what do we do right now? All right, this is fantastic that it's been brought to us, but to add $60,000 to a program that's gonna be done in a month is, like I said, peanuts. We need to do more.
Mr. Cheney.
Yes, two things. First off, the Office for the Aging is also a resource for seniors that they can go through. Does that then turn to recap, or is there another resource that's used to get those benefits to the individuals that apply?
They have a heat worker co-located at the Office for the Aging, so they process heat applications.
From recap.
No, county,
County
yeah, county employee. Recap has 1.5 FTE of staff that administers these funds and does the marketing across the community. So that is the contract that we have with Recap for the fuel fund, separate from HEAP. So remember, the HEAP is the 7 to 8 million or whatever our allotment is. This is on top of for people who are above the guidelines for HEAP.
Do seniors get to access the
Yes.
fuel fund as well as he, if they're in that gap?
Yes, and in fact, seniors get an add-on in HEAP, and you'll see in this paperwork that was just distributed, I thank you for making the copies and for requesting the copies, but you'll see that seniors get an add-on benefit, which isn't a great deal, but they do get additional support from HEAP.
And then I just remind my colleagues, I mean, we're going to be back in session on the 15th of December. There are committee meetings that are going to occur before that point in time. So I think that that's part of how the urgency might be able to be handled, both at Ways and Means and also at Human Services.
I think
Thank you for bringing this to
it's
us.
a proactive start. I mean, and I agree with Jim. Again, I'd love to put $1 million in there, but let's see how this works if we do this today.
Mr. Duke.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think all of this is great that you're working on this. I just have a couple of questions. Over the years, we've found out that some of the heat providers They've been cheating people, cheating seniors. Matter of fact, we had two
Propane,
people.
you and I, a couple
That's
years ago.
right. They had them kicked off the vendors list. Is there any kind of, not a study, but something sent out to seniors that, that they could say, listen, they can charge me $7 for this because my tank is outside, instead of saying, well, we'll put in a non-freeze thing in your oil tank to help you out. Is any of that, I mean, does anybody ever find out about that? Unless I found out from a senior. That's why we got involved and got, actually, that vendor got kicked off for 2
I
years.
remember that, yeah.
For 2 years. I'll tell you, it was Suburban Propane. That's who it was.
I was gonna mention it.
But my other, a couple other questions too. One was about off the aging. Those applicants don't go, they go to.
They say heap.
Right? They go.
They can go through recap. If they are above the heap, they have a heap worker there as well that processes heap applications. If they're above the heap income monthly guidelines, then they would refer them to recap for the fuel fund.
Okay.
Yeah, same as what our own heap workers do.
And you found that $60,000 in your budget. That was just a question for me is where? Was it vacant position that we filled? Is that where the money came from?
We have 76 vacancies right now. We're desperate.
No, I know you are. I'm just asking if that's where
It's actually taken from the consulting line and child support.
consulting.
Again.
I also had something else. I want to get back to that. Is there any way that we can check on our providers that they're doing the right thing? Because look, they only get so much for heat allowance, right? And it's the fuel that, once it's gone, it's gone. You don't get an additional unless they go to the fuel fund, right? So if people are cheating people, they're not getting the amount they should get. And look, we proved it. It isn't like everybody's perfect here. So if there's some way that we can check it on the vendors or the providers, maybe they have to send us their sheet too, so we know. So we can check with the seniors or whomever and say, hey, this is what the price you were supposed to get. What is your ticket say? What does it say? Just so we could,
There has to be audits that are done by Consumer Affairs and DSS.
Actually, we don't make the payments. New York State does. So New York State does those reviews and audit checks.
Yeah, and New York State doesn't know unless somebody here is checking to say, hey, we're gouging. Yeah, they just take it, just like everything else, just, no, that's okay, that's what they said. No checking on if they're doing the right thing or not.
Ms. Tortel?
Do you have some type of flyer that we can print out? Maybe I'd like to put them up in, local businesses around my district, and then something also for social media that we can alert, similar to the mailer, that we can alert the people,
Yes, absolutely.
Because I can't tell you, I mean, I live in a community where we're post office only, and a lot of, there's a bin there that a lot of, the mail that they don't want goes into immediately without them even contemplating it, and then somebody who might need it in their family, they kind of forgot it was there, and so they just hit that and dump real quick.
Okay, I will certainly. get
So if
those
it's
to you.
someplace where we can post it, that people will see it when they're waiting for their coffee or their whatever, it would be a great help. Because I'd like to definitely promote this, because I know several people that are struggling with a lot of things, and we're trying to help them as much as we can.
Good.
We did get 40 turkeys.
We did,
Mr. O'Donnell?
thank you.
Turkeys.
40 turkeys. I have a lot of company coming.
Yeah.
So one thing we can do, pretty much right away is, Mr. Miller mentioned that the state has suspended their sales tax of 4%. Westchester County has already suspended their sales tax for heating fuel and home fuel for the residents of Westchester. And I don't know if we need permission from the state like we had to do with the gasoline tax.
Probably,
There you go.
just like before we brought the
I
rules.
would ask,
So I
The
called
next
on this,
time.
I was asked yesterday, we do not charge on that, so therefore we don't have to suspend it. We don't have to.
we don't have a sales tax on home heating already?
I called New York State Department of Taxation yesterday, and I spoke with your counsel on that as well, and the county attorney.
And I also heard, Ken Executive Newhouse this morning on the radio speaking about it, he also mentioned the same thing, that we do not have.
And the paperwork was provided, so that too.
Are you talking about electrical delivery too?
That's what I was gonna say.
Yes.
That's great.
Yes,
Too bad we
yes.
can't appraise them.
I can't believe Westchester, with their taxes already zoomed, that they even tax that and we don't. So that's pretty surprising.
Matt, can you, I think the county attorney also said something that you guys have passed a local law, which.
So there was a resolution in 1982, which was sort of the foundation for county sales tax. And there was a provision in there that they could oil. And I haven't had the opportunity to read through 40 beer books, but as far as I know, that's never been changed.
Yeah, that's not an issue.
And the state doesn't have, the state keeps records of everybody who taxes us, and we're not in their list, so. And Kerry has no record that we're collecting on this, so given these, multiple facts, there's nothing to be done.
But
Ms. Tortel?
Okay.
you're saying specifically fuel oil, people heat with electricity and with propane and gas. What about those deliveries?
I don't have that off the top of my head. I recently.
If you could look into that, I'd appreciate it.
It's the only-
From Betsy?
Yes, as Ms. Gallagher mentioned, I did discuss this with her yesterday. There is documentation on the New York State taxation website that notes that it's all heating sources for residential property. So it's inclusive of electricity, wood pellets. There is corn of the 4%.
Yeah, I have them here. Natural gas,
That's my
propane,
other question.
electricity, steam, gas, electric.
The question is, what can we do? Right? The state has suspended their
We don't
4%.
have it.
But we don't have that.
So we don't
That's
even
the
have
same. No, we have
electric
nothing.
pellets.
No,
Yeah, they're all.
there's no tax.
Okay.
Yo, good order here.
And I just, so
Yes.
my first call yesterday was on our behalf, and then it was brought up to me by council, on the second behalf of the state. So the answer to both is that we are not collecting, the state is not collecting. And also to your point, Mr. Legislator O'Donnell, if you look at the list, you do see Westchester on that list. So.
Okay, and also for the general public who's listening, and also Mr. Sassy, in May, you should start asking your oil company for the price cap programs. Because I locked in, I pay like $300 a month, and I locked in at like $434 or something like that. So I
I'm
pay,
Italian, we pay cash.
I pay monthly to my oil provider, which I changed because I felt I got screwed last year by Depew. So I signed up with somebody else. I locked in. I pay a monthly fee, and it's capped for the year, except for what do they call that? Where there's always a legal term, force majeure. There's always something, if something hits the fan and something happens, that they can get out of it with extreme conditions. But I encourage everyone next year to that summer program, sign up. Any other questions or comments?
Just again, thank you, and thank you to Commissioner
Yeah,
Miller
thank you, Darcy.
and to Law and on our budget for expediting this. Appreciate
You're
it.
welcome.
I would just add thank you to you all as well. Really.
And our council.
Great work.
Did we vote?
Nope. All right, so all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried.
And I just want to.
Thank you, everyone.
Tell somebody a story about Darcy. We've been struggling with some very needy families in my district. And every year, a combination between our recreation department and our Chamber of Commerce, they've been able to source Thanksgiving dinners for roughly 40 families via the food bank. And the account was depleted this year. There was no additional funds in the budget for them to get to help these families. And I've been going back and forth. I called Darcy yesterday, and this is 26 hours, less than maybe, not even 24 hours later, Darcy has been able to work a miracle and give 40 families in my district a very happy Thanksgiving. So
It wasn't my miracle. It was all your miracle. It was the money that was put in the food bank, by all of you. There was additional and the county executive support. And Irene Kurlander, one of our awesome team members who leads up on supporting food banks across the county or pantries across the county. It was a collective effort. So I'm glad that the turkeys will be in your community.
thank you from the bottom of my heart and from my community. It really Thank you.
Darcy, can
Thank
you check, because I have a friend who runs one of, who's very supportive of the food banks in Newburgh.
Yes.
And he's been working with Irene or trying to hook up with Irene for like months now. And I don't think anything has been, any assistance has been for them.
I follow up because I believe that she just told me that she spoke with someone that was referred
Yeah.
to you
Mm-hmm.
and they made a connection, but I'll find out.
Okay,
I'll definitely find out, because that would be unusual, to say the least, but I will find out.
Okay, great. All right, motion to adjourn is in order.
So moved.
Second, all in favor? Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
All righty.
Kevin?
And off with the buttons.